Hello, my dear friends. Namaste. I'm Joe Loftus of Nuit Astrology. Welcome to your planetary energy forecast for the week of August the 4th, 2025. Now, I'm putting the astrological caution flag up, and as I told my clients this month, from the 4th to the 14th, I'm thinking we need to be a little careful. We need to be a little cautious. Why? Well, we have multiple things happening, but one of the major things this week that we're looking at is Mars finishing up his journey through the sign of Virgo, pivoting into Libra, not a sign he likes to be in. It stands across the sky from his preferred placement. And he's tangling with both Saturn, moving backwards in Aries, and Neptune, moving backwards in Aries. Now, in a positive sense, he begins to speak really beautifully to Uranus, and towards the end of the week, also with Pluto. And what this does in the sky is sets up a unique formation that looks literally like a kite. And this kite formation, I've done only a little research on it. I heard mixed things. Some people think of it as beneficial, but there's a very meaningful paper, which I spoke to you guys about earlier, written by Lynn Coiner, who discusses how this configuration, this kite configuration, tends to create large events that bring major changes literally to the world. It triggers major types of either weather events or tragic events in the world. And she maps this out very well in an article that she wrote. And again, this I want to give credit to World Astrology Report, to that gentleman. He's a very brilliant mundane astrologer. When we say mundane astrology, that's astrology of world events. And Dan Waits is his name, and it really is kind of interesting to see how we're at a tipping point with many things. We've already experienced quite a few weather-related events. We've experienced quite a few tragic events over the last couple of weeks, but this energy is building into even more tension. And then to add to this, we will have, not completely this week, but as we get into next, we have Mercury moving backwards in the sign of Leo. And it's going to station within 2 degrees. It's going to, it slows down as it gets ready to station. And when we say station, it's either stationing to move forward or stationing to move backwards. In this case, Mercury is going to be stationing to move forward. But when it does, it's going to be within the 2-degree tractor beam of Pluto in Aquarius. So there's a huge amount of interaction between the planets this week and into next. And when they all mathematically connect like that, it gives us less latitude to make decisions, our free will. As Shelley Trimmer, my Goswami Kriyananda's teacher, would say, what's the difference between karma and destiny? And he would say 3 degrees. So when things are in that orb, as we say, that 3-degree or less orb, there's less wiggle room. There's less ability to dodge these events. They tend to be more impactful. And so, what I would definitely say this week is to not overschedule your life. Make sure that you have gaps. Make sure that you have some downtime. And make sure that you are not in a space where you're overreacting to things or not prepared for the speed bumps that may come along, okay? This Mercury retrograde has been a doozy for sure, but just stay a little bit more nimble this week and into next. Let's break it down day by day. Now, as we start the week on the 4th, Uranus gets to 1 degree of Gemini. So this strengthens its beautiful connection with both Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto. We've talked a little bit about how this magic triangle is forming in the sky with the outer planets all flowing together, which will expedite the change that we're experiencing with them all in new signs, right? So that's something to contemplate. But also it begins to send some really lovely energy to Mars. So Mars, Uranus in harmony can bring sudden, shocking things that might feel very exciting, that might spur you to action, that might give you the idea of moving forward something. Mars wants you to not just think about it and not just talk about it, but do something about it. But Mars in Virgo is also very exacting, very precise, has very strong opinions about how it should be done. Uranus in Gemini brings up infinite possibilities. So this is a lovely combination of energy. Now, on the 5th, Mars gets to 29 Virgo, and Mars at the what we call anaretic, the very final degree of that specific sign. Always there's a push to completion. And then it pivots on the 6th into Libra. Now remember, Mars in Libra is maybe a little bit more concerned with peace and fairness, is a little bit more focused on relationships, is maybe feeling a little hampered in this sign. I am a native Mars and Libra person. It adds to my indecisiveness. It amplifies my deep desire to avoid conflict, which can sometimes be problematic, right? So we don't want to, it's not that we want to embrace conflict, but we have to set good boundaries when we have Mars and Libra. And then we have that Mercury opposition with Pluto begins to pick up about midweek. So we're starting to feel that. And we're going to feel that's going to carry us forward all the way into next week. So this is potential, Mars, Mercury, coercion, arguments, power dynamics, people trying to manipulate you. Be aware of that and be cautious. And then we have the strengthening with Mars into Libra, the strengthening of its opposition to Saturn and Neptune. So Saturn, the principle of the rules, of regulations, of structure, of gravity, of people who are in positions of power. Neptune, in its highest sense, the merging, the borderless, the infinite, the cosmic, the creative, or in its shadow, the deceptive, the elusive, the fake, right? So it's like there's with Saturn and Neptune, I keep saying this, it's almost like an instant karma thing. Like you'll be getting your feedback pretty quickly, whether you're going down the road of illusion and delusion or down the road of expansion and possibility. But with Mars right across the sky from them, it's really going to push and prompt them. And with the nice connection with Uranus, it means expect the unexpected. Now, this energy takes us into our full moon, which occurs on the 9th in the East Coast time zone at 3:55 a.m. But, asterisk, but just like last month, the minute the moon becomes full, it moves into void of course status, which means you don't want to initiate your rituals, your cord cuttings, your full moon completion acknowledgments, anything formal. You would not want to do that until the following day. The moon comes out of void on the 10th at 2:50 a.m. Eastern. So adjust that for your time zone. And again, I've got a full thing on my blog. I have a blog where I have all the moon voids for August. They adjust for the 6 different time zones. So check that out so that you know when you want to ritually celebrate this full moon. Now, this full moon is at 17 degrees of the sign of Aquarius. And so it's not really in a deep interaction with some of the other cosmic things that are happening in the sky. But find this sector where the middle of Aquarius is in your chart and ask yourself, what are you ready to release here? What obstacle is in your way? How do you want to let go and detach? And if you're not sure where it is in your chart, then think of just generally the energy of Aquarius. Where are you maybe leaking energy to technology that it's really not serving you? Maybe social media, things like that. Maybe you should be embracing technology. Maybe you're clinging to your, oh, well, I'm just not going to use AI. You need to, as technology builds and changes, you have to keep up, okay? Now you have to use it in a wise way, but you have to keep up. You have to be on top of things. You have to understand where things are going, right? So it could also be that you need to maybe let go of some groups of people. Maybe you're going to edit the group chats that you're keeping up with on your phone. You're finding that you're leaking energy that way. Maybe you're going to clean up the Substack list and not get an email from every single blog that you want to follow, right? Another way to kind of celebrate an Aquarian full moon is to cross some things off your bucket list. Things that you wanted to achieve or accomplish. Acknowledge, bless those goals. Notice where you are in your fulfillment patterns and then let them go so that you can create new goals. All right. So this is a wonderful way to work with that full moon energy. And then as we get to the 10th, that Mars connection to Pluto begins to strengthen. And Mars and Pluto, they are two planets that are often considered the malefics, but yet here they are talking harmoniously from the Libra sector of your chart to the Aquarius sector of your chart. So this is the energy of air, the energy of ideas, contemplations, conversations, things that we communicate about, right? The movement of air, the flow of things. So this is a true acceleration of whatever's happening. Now, I've got to also say, towards the end of the week and into next, the benefics get together. Venus and Jupiter are going to walk together hand in hand in the sign of Cancer. This I'm really looking to help us with some of these other tense aspects. While Mars is kind of being blessed and challenged by all the heavy hitting planets, Jupiter and Venus are going to stroll together. Now, this isn't about the middle of Cancer, so if you know where the Cancer sector of the chart is, this can be very beneficial. But do watch, because I think, especially with both the benefics together in Cancer, this could really amplify our emotionality. So we could fall into emotional eating, emotional shopping, things of that nature. We could find ourselves really feeling very protective, very territorial. That could also be a thing. Very tribal, right? Because Cancer is the sign of the family or the country. So that could amplify those feelings as well. It could also lead you to overestimating your abilities in some way. And I'm not saying this in like, oh, you falsely think you're able to do something. I think it could be like, well, yeah, sure, I'll take on those additional work hours to make more money, and then you realize that you've taken on too much, you're wearing yourself out. Or yeah, sure, I'll do all these social events, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. So allow those benefics to kind of give you a little boost, a little encouragement to spend more time at home, beautify the home, but not overspend or overextend yourself. All right. Now, I did want to mention there are also a couple other, besides that little full moon interlude where the moon will void. We have a moon void in the center of the day, East Coast time, on the 5th, 11:29 a.m. Eastern till 1:04 p.m. Eastern. And then on the 6th, the moon is void from 1:40 p.m. Eastern until the 7th at 9:18 p.m. So all day on the 7th, at least East Coast, but a pretty long time period there. The moon will be void almost all day on the 7th. So keep that in mind. If you're not sure how to manage moon voids, search for that on my YouTube channel. I've got a little video there on how to manage those. All right. So as far as the light and shadow of the week, for the light, I'm really liking Uranus connecting very beautifully with both Mars and with Saturn and Neptune, okay? Uranus is kind of the answer here. Now, I don't know about you, but I've had definitely some shocking things happening. And anytime they do, I always think, okay, even if it's something that I think maybe that's not particularly beneficial, I think, this is burning off some Uranus karma. So that is a very beneficial thing to look at. Mars flowing nicely with both Uranus and Pluto. That is something to look forward to. And I actually like this full moon as well. And of course, Venus walking with Jupiter. For me, that's my 10th house of career. It's a wonderful opportunity. I'm definitely going to be sharing lots of information about my upcoming retreat to India and Nepal this week, because I think that will be very beneficial. And then as far as the shadow, well, definitely. I mean, we're watching this kite formation. We're watching this argument between the principle of structure, the principle of confusion, and Mars, the principle of action, right? We're definitely watching that. And then we've got to watch that Mercury-Pluto situation. And I'm definitely keeping my eye on that Mercury-Pluto, because later in the month, Venus and Pluto will stand across the sky from each other. And so I think that we'll begin to see some patterns here. We'll be having these conversations and ideas that towards the end of the month will be more related to our finances and material wealth and what we value. So keeping an eye on that. And then, yeah, I would say that those are the shadows. So the Celtic Cross this week is on the kite formation, and what we need to know about it. It seems to be pretty beneficial, and as the cards always do, it weaves back to the Isis Lotus Tarot spread that I posted yesterday. So check that out if you're at all interested to see the two different ways to work with the energy of the week. They both seem very powerful.
Hello, my friends. All right, let's take a look at this kite formation. Now, we're going to be dealing with this more than just this week. This week, it intensifies, no doubt, and it will usher us into next week, but we're going to just do a little Celtic Cross on the best way to manage this energy. All right. So as I think some of you have heard me mention before, I always looked at it as a beneficial thing. I'm like, look at all that harmony, but yeah, that nozzle, that part of the kite in conflict with some of the other major players, it's a pushing mechanism, I would say, is probably the best way to say that's how it's displayed in the chart. So, what do we need to know collectively? How to manage this energy with skill and grace. Alrighty, so the first card is us, you, Knight of Swords. So interesting, this popped up in one of the outcomes for the Isis Lotus Tarot spread as well. So Knight of Swords, this means we must be rational, logical, and we may be pushed to make a decision, have a conversation that we need to take care of. What is crossing us? Queen of Swords. So the queen is kind of a more mature version of the knight, you know. She's a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more intuitive, even though she does basically work with facts, figures, and truth. Now in the past, Six of Pentacles, we've been putting some energy or money into something specific that we are trying to manifest. And in the future, Wheel of Fortune. We have to understand that there's some collective karma at play here. We are all dreaming this dream collectively. We are responsible for our part of it, but we're definitely having to deal with some of the other manifestations that people are making in the world. Now, crowning thoughts. This is interesting because this card also was involved in the Isis Lotus Tarot spread. So this idea of creating a sanctuary, a safe home, an abundant home, a place where we're safe. Subconsciously, Two of Swords. We've got this nagging feeling that there's something that we don't quite know, or that we have this bit of tension building. The advice card, King of Cups. Oh, hilarious. Okay, so sorry, this was the key card of the future in the Isis Lotus Tarot spread. So it's always, I find it amusing when the cards repeat. You know, this is the energy of a king, right? It's directive, it's ruling, it's leadership. But this is the sensitive king, the emotionally intelligent king, the intuitive king, the king who considers feelings and, you know, is involved in the healing arts and things like that. He's not just your average ruler. And so that's the advice card, stepping into that kind of energy. Outside influence, Four of Swords. There is an element of timing to all this. There's something about stepping back, being prepared but not pushing. Now, what do we want to happen? Well, High Priestess, we want to float above it all, stay connected to our spiritual practices, know that we're supported, guided, and held by a loving universe and by our angels and guides. Outcome of this week and this particular configuration, which does carry us into next week, and the card is Temperance. Moderation, balance. I think of her as a card of alchemy, of creating the container, putting the substance, the transforming substance, and coming up with something new, burning away the excess, the things that aren't necessary, the things that don't matter, taking something down to its very purity and essence. Now, the reader's fan will give us just a little bit more details. The moon was also in the Isis Lotus Tarot spread. So there's a lot going on. We don't have all the facts, figures, and everything. Emperor, but we need to feel empowered and know that we are co-creating our world. Page of Wands, we'll need to move forward on something, take action. Queen of Cups, but remain sensitive and intuitive in the process. So, future, Wheel of Fortune. you can kind of see that whatever we're reaping whatever we've sown, whether it's individually or collectively. But temperance, moderation, balance, slow down. That is the best way to handle the energy this week. All right. I hope you found this useful and helpful. And if you did, please drop a comment below. It does help the channel to grow. Please hop on the website. I have some new blogs up. I've got some new mentorship programs on there. And have a great week. Bye.